Ksenia, welcome to the Astroben podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on your podcast, and I've been following you for a while already, and I've seen that you had amazing guests before, and I'm sure that you're gonna have even more amazing guests in the future. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, now you've come on. There's going to be lots of people who are going to want to come on and be a guest. But one of the first guys I had on is a friend of mine called Imran, who I met on a course. Um, and talking to him about the sort of people I should get on, he was like, "Oh, there's one person you should get on. That's Ksenia," because I think he did one of your courses. Um, uh,
Imran, of course, one of my very, very good students and very talented ones.
Oh, that's great. So let's go straight into it. So some of the people listening may not be following you on
Yeah.
Instagram. I don't know where they've been for the last few years if they haven't. But tell us, what do you do? So you dedicate your life to inspiring people to embrace their love of space. Um, so what do you do?
Yeah, this is correct. And currently, I'm more focusing on being a mentor for space and tech leaders because this is what I feel that like, we have so many talented people in the space industry. And sometimes I just like feel sad when I know how intelligent, smart, and powerful they actually are, and what exciting projects they have. But then I realized that they don't share too much about them, and when they don't speak about them, then just so many people cannot know all the amazing things they're doing. Even like I often consider, my sister who is currently 15 years old, and she's following all the influencers, but it's mostly about like travel, maybe education and those kind of stuff. However, I just wish that she would know how many, like, that we have so many amazing people and talented people in the industry. And that's why I try to empower those people to share more about their work, to basically, yeah, increase the space outreach.
So I guess it's the sort of personal branding piece. So it's how you present yourself to your peers, to customers, to your networks. Um, have you always been sort of aware of?
Exactly.
Have you always been aware of how important it is to portray yourself in the correct way online, or not the correct way, but in the sort of optimum way for you? Like, because obviously there was no social media 10 years ago, so I guess it's kind of our generation that have tried to navigate their way through. Like, what have you like? What drew you to doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the thing is that people always have had a personal brand. It's just
Hmm.
like now that we have so many great opportunities to grow a personal brand, because we have social media platforms. We have, besides offline events that cost actually a lot of money to just get to another country, to be present there, to get flight tickets, to stay at the hotel, and so on. Now we have also online events, so it is much, much easier. However, if you think even about like our grandparents, they also had personal brand. They were working on that. The name was for that just reputation, right? And if you had a good reputation in the city, then you were also having a lot of clients, a lot of
Hmm.
partnerships. People wanted to reach out to you, to work with you. But just before, it was a more offline thing, which was much, much harder, especially, okay, on the national level, it wouldn't be that hard. Of course, you would need some time, but still. But to accelerate, to scale your brand on an international level, it was very, very hard, nearly impossible, I would say,
Hmm.
for a normal person.
It's funny, right?
But
How
now, through
yeah.
the digitalization, it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how like you mentioned like tech leaders and how they the importance of how they're perceived online, because it used to be like things like Twitter used to be things that you would opt into, like it wasn't sort of mandatory. But now if you're a leader in tech, if you don't have a profile or an identity somewhere online, it's hard to tell the world about what your company's doing. Um, so
Exactly.
what's your platform of choice? Like I know you're on Instagram and LinkedIn. What's the most effective for you
Yeah.
in terms of creating your personal brand?
For me, my favorite ones are LinkedIn and Instagram. And just like why I love Instagram is mostly for the reason that it has stories. So, and
Mm,
I see, especially in the tech and space industry, if you are working on like a very extensive research, which is so difficult, for people to understand it. And the thing is, like, even if a normal person, let's say, want to learn more about space, it is just if they take a look into, like Space Magazine, something like this, and then they will try to understand what's actually going on, it will be very hard because it's just written in a very complicated language.
yeah.
But why, again, I love Instagram because of the stories. So you can really explain those difficult things in such an easy manner that everyone understands, that a kid can understand, because you're just bringing up the metaphors and just showing, let's say, if it's relationships, in the space industry, you're just giving an example how the relationships in a normal life look like between between like couples, or is it a marriage, or is it a business partnership, or just between friends. So it's very easy, and then you can also showcase, not just say that today I drank tea, but you can take a cup of tea and say, guys, today while I was drinking my tea, I was thinking about this and this. So it's very easily, because it has a combination of a picture, or like video in this case even, and the text. And like the
Mm,
second favorite platform for me is LinkedIn, of course, because I just think that it's a very targeted platform. I like that even if you post something, you can directly see exactly the demographics of the audience who viewed your post, who viewed or like who interacted with your post. And not only demographics, you can even see from which companies were the people who interacted with your post. And this is amazing. So it's very easy to understand the exact target audience, whether you are going in the right direction. And it also helps you to better understand, in which directions to move with your social media strategy. However, of course, like I always say that like for each person there is a different platform. So um, if you love speaking, then please welcome to Clubhouse. If you like, if you're like very powerful sharing the video content, if it's easy for you, then please, there is YouTube as well. If you are someone, for example, some people, they cannot react like immediately on certain events, so they need time to process it and then to give their opinion. For this, LinkedIn is perfect. But for the people who can immediately say, like comment on some events that are happening around us, Twitter would be perfect. For example, I wouldn't be able to manage my Twitter account because it's just like too much. You need to be very, very active on Twitter to succeed there. And for me, it's just too much because of the things. But I prefer, in this kind of sense, Instagram, where I can share also my comments directly, but showing, in a more storytelling way.
absolutely. And it kind of, Instagram especially, I think, gives you the opportunity to let people see your personal life as well, which is quite important if you're an entrepreneur, I think, because if people are, buying a place on your course, they're not buying it. Well, they are buying it for the content, but equally they're buying it because, they're inspired by you in some way and want to, have that one-on-one mentoring time with you. And seeing the personal side is all part of the appeal, I guess.
Absolutely, Ben. You're so right. And I'm actually very happy that you are saying that and that you notice the importance of that. I always say that personal brand consists of two main parts or pillars, whatever you want to say. The first one is your expertise, and the other one is personality. Because through your expertise, actually, you give people an understanding. You share with people your knowledge, your experience, and this helps people to realize, oh, this person is saying good things, I can trust this person, I can rely on the information that this person is sharing with me.
Mm,
But personality is something that just makes this connection, and without the connection, without the same vibe, it's very difficult to interact with people if you don't know about their values, about what they like, about what are their hobbies even, or like a vibe. Some of us, let's say, are introverts, others are extroverts. Those are the things that are also connecting each other. And this is what you can definitely show through Instagram. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I because I'm kind of in between. Like I think I'm sort of a introverted extrovert. So I heard a new term the other day called an ambivert. So I'm like I'm an ambivert. But that's super cool. So let's talk about your
That's cool.
course. So your course is, did you do your first crash course last year? Was that the first one you did in terms of
Yes,
targeted at the space
exactly.
industry?
A bit, yeah, exactly. A bit more than a year ago. Actually, yeah, it was, I think, on March 15, something like that. We had a first webinar for the personal branding course, and in the beginning, the name of that was how to become a space influencer, and how this idea was born. Actually, based on the research that I made for the IEC in 2019, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken, and or 2020, yeah, 2020. So I was interviewing different experts from the industry and was making this research, and I realized that there are actually so many people out there who would be ready, to become thought leaders and so on, but they're facing many stereotypes still, like from other people, which are generated from other people, like space is not for women, let's say, space is just for elite, or like it's very hard to get into there, and
mm,
like due to those stereotypes, for people it became a little bit hard, and they started to struggle, like whether they should tell their opinion, how it is actually looking in the space industry out there, and share it with a broader audience or not. And I realized that, so like, not that I realized, that we all know from people from the space industry, that there is a certain gap between the scientists and the general public, and that we need to increase our space outreach. And how we can do that is, again, what I've said, through the influencers. But then there was another stereotype that came in, that people from the space industry, they were afraid of the word influencer, because
yeah.
they were used to, like, fashion influencers, travel influencers, beauty influencers, and it was kind of difficult for them to realize that space influencers are not the people who are just, okay, saying, okay, this is something new happened in space, this is something happened. But space in the influencers, or deep tech influencers, are the people who really carry a huge responsibility on their shoulders, because the knowledge that they share with a broader audience, like, there there cannot be any mistake. It's not something that a new brand just came out and you are sharing about that, but you're actually, with your influence, you are impacting current generation and the next generation. And this is what I try to give, like, try to present with my research, and people like that idea and they followed it, and this was the first version of the course. And we gathered a group with people, like, from more than 12 countries on the first course. It was a success, I believe, and like, all the feedbacks, they're just amazing. Like, even you can read them on the website. People really changed their lives. People had a deep transformational process in many stages of like, of whether, like, 3D kind of stages, like career, personal, business, like those kind of things. And so I decided to continue. And then, like, what I seen again, because there is still the prejudice of the word influencer, I changed it a bit, because it's actually, it is the same. It's still about, like, it's going about the thought leadership, but then I said, okay, it's about personal branding in the space
Mm.
industry, and no matter for whom, for students, for space professionals, for young space professionals, for experts, for executives, for entrepreneurs. So anyone can do that.
Wow, yeah, that's really cool. I completely get where you're coming from in terms of that imposter syndrome. Because I've been to the IEC a few times as well, and the first time I went was in Australia in 2018, 2017. It's a few years ago now, and
Oh,
it the demographic at those kind of big space conferences has changed a lot over the years. Like, as you say, like, the male female split it is improving, especially over the last few years, thankfully. Um, but I see how it's if you want to enter the space industry and become a science communicator, it's not it's not easy. it's you have to be brave and just do it. It's kind of like with the podcast, like, the last thing I wanted to do was like record my own voice. Like I listen to myself back and I cringe every single time. I mean, it's slightly less cringe than episode one, but that's kind of part of it, isn't it? And I agree with you in terms of a space influencer. It's a bit of a, I don't know. I guess it depends where you're coming from that point. If you're like a scientist and you want to communicate the benefits of science, that's an easy focus for you. But if you're just trying to be a space influencer to, get free tickets to launches, that's a little bit questionable. So the people that,
Exactly.
yeah. So the people,
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's right.
mm,
Sorry. Yeah.
that's all right. There's a bit of a delay, but I suppose I was just wondering, like, the people that come to you, do they have a clear reason behind? So say they join a space influencer course. Is it because they have a vision of themselves in the future, or they want to have this job working for this company? How much clarity is there in terms of why they're doing the course? What's their motivation?
Actually, Actually, this yeah, very good question. And the thing is, like when they're coming, they don't really understand. Like they understand that there is something important, and this is something that they definitely should do because, like, they've seen other results. And before starting this course, by the way, I had a focus group of 3 people with whom we really showed the whole process, kind of a not reality show, but we still showed, on what did we work, and people were listening to the reviews of the people with whom I was doing the first mentorship over a month. So they knew that it's something exciting that they definitely needed, but they didn't really understand for what, how, like why influencer. They didn't want to use the word influencer as well. And then at the course is actually what we're doing. Like it has 4 stages, and the first stage is where it's a pre-launch, because we are working very deeply on an audit of your personality and expertise. And this is the very, very important point. People in the beginning, they don't understand why do we need that, why do we need to set goals, why do we need to do stereotypes analysis in the space industry. About mission, we are working a lot on the ikigai to really understand what is the impact that you are going to create with your influence. So it's, again, as you mentioned, it's not about getting free tickets to the conferences, not like this at all. Of course, these are the benefits that you are receiving for this huge responsibility that you are taking on when you decide that, yes, I'm ready to become an influencer or a thought leader, or like I will use my influence in some point. So like in the beginning, we do a lot of deep work on the personality. We have even a class which is like revealing your personality and expertise, where people, the students or mentees, they really get an insight to their own personality, because
Mm,
as you mentioned, the imposter syndrome, or like the braveness, right? Sometimes, like I've even faced with the students who were so talented, they've done so much, they've worked for so amazing projects and programs, they studied a lot, really, like technology, or they became an aerospace engineer, but still they have thought that actually they didn't do that much yet, and they don't know what should they talk about. But then when you see on the white paper actually written what are the awards, what are the all the achievements that you've done in your life, you actually see yourself like as to a new person, and you're like, wow, did I really do that? Oh, that's quite good, I wasn't expecting that I'm that I it could be so good. So
mm,
yeah, it's a lot of work also from a like psychological side point of view, I would say. And then after they've done all this work, it's like, the iceberg kind of, so that they've done the part which is below
yeah.
the level. So they build a fundament, and then based on this fundament they have a clear picture on what they should do. We create a strategy, and then we work through the strategy, and then they see, okay, what are the ways how they can use it, let's say in finding, like getting a better job, like growing their career, or is it a business that they wanted to start but were scared to do
Yeah.
so, or like is it becoming an ambassador, and so on.
I think courses are great because they sort of force you into a scenario where you're accountable. If you're meeting, if you're in a room, even if it's a virtual room with like-minded people, and you're doing work that you have to be done by the next week, it holds you accountable to force yourself to make changes and do those things that are a little bit uncomfortable. Like writing down your goals. And it sounds so obvious. I mean, everyone's tried to keep a New Year's resolution up every year. But having a network of accountability buddies, I think is really powerful. Um,
Absolutely.
and what I really like about how
Absolutely.
you, on your Instagram, is you're quite authentic. So like, if you're late for a meeting, you'll acknowledge it. And like, if you're having a day where you're not feeling particularly motivated, you acknowledge that as well. So by doing that, you're kind of encouraging people to, not be too hard on themselves, because life isn't perfect, and no one's perfect. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Tell me a bit about some of your students. Like, what are you most proud about them? And like, are there some that you can talk about that are doing really cool things and are using your course in a practical way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure whether I should talk about the names, but first of all, I'm proud of each of my students because they came to me each on a very different stage. And now, by the way, like we have from with the second batch of students in total, we have like more than 18 countries. So it's a very international group of people, very diverse. And as I said, like, yeah, they all came to me in a different stage of their lives, um, both, professional or personal. Um, I have students age starting, I think, from 18 to 64 years old. We had even a retired student, which actually was a great example because after the course, he got back to the industry, and he even posted on LinkedIn, I think, that he got back to the to the dream company that he has ever worked for, something like that. So he
Yeah,
changed the country, and
amazing.
it's really great. And others, yeah, I have examples of the students who really had big transformations in their life, who really, for example, even understood that they're not in the right they're not in the right company, they're not with the right people. And yes, it was tough experience, to understand that, and also um, to actually confirm it for yourself, because this is the hardest thing, right?
Mm,
And they made big steps towards it. Some of them even, let's say, took a break for a couple of months to understand, to reflect again, what are their strengths, what could they work on, and then they made those changes. They continue going now, and they went far. Some of the people, like one of my first ones, which was the girl who was in my mentorship program, like in the focus group before the course, even she has shown tremendous results on the national level in her country. She started to receive invitations from TV programs, from like she was invited to give a TED talk on women in science. She was participating in UN women social media campaign. She was invited to do a space like to become a mentor of this in a space camp for one of the groups. So like there were really a lot of changes. Or she
mm.
became an ambassador. And I have even a student who won in a challenge in Bremen, if I'm not mistaken. And so there was a challenge between different, I think, like different teams, yes, and there were different categories. And him and his team, they won in the category the most engaging company in the social media. And like through the, again, like the tools that he learned during the course, and like the whole thing, the whole process, actually, how can you promote and engage with the audience about your topic, about your project. And they won, I think, the scholarship for 64,000 euros. So it's also a great
Wow.
result. Then Yeah, I have, but it all depends. All the people are so different. Like, you heard the story from a person who was retired and then got back into the industry. Then I have students. I have people who are in the middle of their professional way, and they also, like, some just even, yeah. One of my students, he launched a startup during the course. He had the idea about his startup before, but the tools from the course, it helped him a lot to really do it finally, and to get funding through. He started a crowdfunding campaign. And then what I like as well is that my students later on, they also become speakers at this course, because they have a lot to share, the
Yeah, they
things
want to
that
pay
they've
it.
done,
They want to pay it
all
forward
this.
to the next group coming in. It's fascinating.
Exactly.
And what's your? We've only got a few minutes left, so I want to find out a bit more about you personally, because you've decided to focus a career on empowering people to tell their stories and embrace who they are. Like, what do you outside of work? Do you have any hobbies? What has happened in your past that has shaped who you are today?
That's very interesting. I like the question about my hobbies. Um, I wish I could say, "Oh, this is my hobby. I like doing this." But the thing is, I love working, and work is my hobby. Sometimes when I go on holiday, I'm like thinking, "Okay, I'm not gonna talk about work. I'm not gonna do anything," and I'm just leaving my laptop at home, and then there are so many exciting ideas happening, coming to my head, especially when I'm actually relaxing and when I'm on holiday, because you just get new and completely fresh thoughts. And then I'm just taking my phone. Thanks God that my job is actually completely online, so it's just easy to work from anywhere in the
Mm,
world, no matter where. Just like when I'm on the plane, probably I don't have a signal, but usually, yeah, I immediately take my phone, write down the ideas, what should we do. I'm contacting with my team, so I really like. Yeah, I think Steve Jobs, right, said that you should find a job that you love so much that then you don't have to work any single day. And this is how I feel actually. Sometimes, of course, there is a lot of work and a lot going on, so I need to do to work hard. But I'm most of the time enjoying. This is my hobby as well.
mm.
I don't know whether it's a sad part or a positive part. Maybe it could motivate some people as well. So,
No.
and for me, basically about my past, yeah, I've been traveling a lot. I've changed many countries to live, and now I'm in Istanbul, in Turkey. Before, I've been living over 10 years in Austria, and actually, I've always loved to work and to interact with people, and communication was actually something that really helped me to grow in my career, in my business, and everything. This is for me the most important thing in anything. And as I was 15 years old, I started, like, I was in school in Austria. It was a tourism school, by the way, so I didn't come to space directly. There were different stops, and there I started to work immediately. I was a waitress. I was working as a shop assistant in a, like, very cool shop which was in the ski resort. So, and I always try to build relationship with the people. And actually, in my like student time as well, I was able to build kind of families in Austria, because again, through the communication, because I was reaching out to people, and then suddenly, like, at some point, I was feeling that I became a daughter of this family, and I
Mm,
got new sisters and brothers. It was very interesting. And then I started to work at the oil and gas company in the communications for 3 years. After that, I changed to Siemens, which is also a tech company. So I liked all those things already before, but I never was thinking that there is something like working in the space industry. I had no idea about that. It's just that one day I was not satisfied with my life, with the people who were surrounding me, and I'm like, why not to change a job? And I've always been dreaming about going to United Nations. So I just sent my resumes to the different positions which were offered at that time to United Nations. And then after 3 months, UNOSA, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, they contacted me. And as I learned after that, as I got the internship there, that they found my resume in a pool of different other resumes because they needed a person who would help them to launch a new project, a Space for Water platform. And it has to be a communication person. So it was me. And then as I landed at the UNOSA, all the conferences, and then I just started to feel myself like so good. I'm like, yes, this is exactly the atmosphere, the vibe, the people with whom I want to continue moving forward. And this is how I stayed in the space sector. And then like different companies started to reach out to me and wanted me to work with them. And in the sense of building my career, the last, let's say, highest point was as I working for a startup SpaceBeat, a UK space startup, which they created a rover to send it to the moon, and I was leading marketing and PR activities at that point. So it was really exciting journey, and then I came to build my own business.
Well, congratulations on your business. I would say you're still in the honeymoon period of starting it because I've run my own business for too long that I want to mention. And you can see the weariness in my eyes. But you know, you are an inspiration to a lot of people, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more courses and a lot more people entering the space industry. You know, with the confidence of knowing their own personal brands, thanks to your mentoring. So thank you very much. And hopefully we'll chat again soon. Thanks, Ksenia.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and all the best, all the success to your podcast. I think it's a great thing that you are doing. It definitely will help to increase the space outreach, and I'm excited to see your fantastic results very, very soon.
Thanks, Ksenia.